I'm back in the cupboard for Let's Learn Together about gas boilers. It's really an ignorant rant though. This is my third rant about gas boilers, and this time I want to rant on about they're too powerful. Most of them are like 24 kilowatt plus, and yet houses, you only use maybe 4 kilowatts to 10 kilowatts. I think about 80% of houses are under 10 kilowatts for their boiler needs. Yeah, I'm speaking with total ignorance here because I've been looking at YouTube and that. I still don't fully understand. But my impression is that the gas boilers in sale at the moment are just far too powerful. I took a look at Screwfix and their minimum was like 24 kilowatts. I think this is a 24 kilowatt. And you might think, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll use lots of bad analogies because I'm ignorant about it, but it's a bit like trying to use a flamethrower as a candle, or driving a Bugatti through a 20 mile an hour zone. I think it's okay if you've got this one isn't too old actually, this is about 2015, but it's a dumb one in my opinion. It could be me that's really dumb, but I think it's dumb, and I'm presuming they make them a bit smarter now, but they're too powerful, and really you want it to, I think this modern smart ones might be able to pretend that they're a lot less powerful, They call it modulation or something. They can modulate down to say 8 kilowatts or, really what you want in a house. But this one I don't think I can modulate. So this one's like a flamethrower that I'm trying to use as a candle. Maybe if you think it's got a dial on it, I would have the flamethrower down at 1%, but it's so weak that it might even just keep cutting it. One way you may be able to spot this is if you're starting to try and put your flow temperature down for your radiators. They call it flow temperature, but I'm going to call it radiator water heat. The heat of the radiator water. I've marked these on it. It's from 45 to 80 degrees here. In the old days when the government and the manufacturers didn't bother about being green and that, and also energy was cheap, really they just fitted these, you could fit them at 80 degrees, the radiator water would return at 60 degrees. It would have a 20 degree differential. Everybody was happy even though the radiator water was far too hot for the needs. But now there's two problems. One is energy prices are sky high now. And the other is that we're putting lots of CO2 into the air and lots of toxic gases. So the government manufacturers, I don't think, really bothered about that until about, say, 15 years ago. When this one was fitted, they were still saying sort of service to green needs. But now they're saying you really want your flow temperature of your radiators down to about 55 degrees, which about 10 years ago, probably most gas engineers would have laughed at. So they call it flow temperature, but what I take it to mean is that this is the radiator water heat, because your radiator water is just going round and back. It's a sealed water. So say there's 50 litres in there. That 50 litres is sealed, and it goes out and it comes back and gets heated, goes out and back. But they used to, what they go for is, say I started at 80 degrees, if I put it away up here, like, it would be programmed that when it comes back at 60 degrees, it'll come back at 60 degrees, and it'll go back on if I've got my room temperature set for higher, 21, 22, or whatever. This has nothing to do with room temperature, this is to do with the heat of the radiator water. This is my hot water. This is actually cold water that gets heated up. They call this a combination boiler. I've not got any hot water storage tank. If you've got a hot water storage tank, you probably won't have this. So because my boiler's so powerful, now it's got a call. It's about to come back on. That means it's got a call to heat up. There's a burner coming on. Say when I had it up at 80, it would come back at 60 and the boiler would turn on again, saving the water got to 59 degrees or something like that. But the problem now is, because the government and because of green and this and all that, and because you want to save energy and you want to save the planet and that, They're now saying that you should have your radiator hot water. It doesn't need to be 80 degrees. You want to put it down now actually to as low as you can get. And I think the government advice at the moment is 55 degrees. But for most of us with these type of boilers, that's probably impossible because our boiler's too powerful. I could be wrong what I'm talking here. I think our boiler's too powerful and we can't modulate it. We can't make it pretend that it's a 8 kilowatt boiler. And another thing is you've got to balance all your radiators as well there. So it's pretty confusing. See, this is my thermometer thing for my room. It's on red at the moment, so it's told it's giving it a call. You need to switch on. But it's already switched off and I'm getting the feeling that this is the problem I'm talking about. When you want your boiler to go sort of like that when it's heating, it stays on for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and then it goes off. But what's happening to mine now, because I'm going down with this, I think it is it keeps going like that. It keeps coming on and off and on and off. And I think what's happening is, say this is at 70 degrees at the moment, so it's going to switch on when the water gets under 50 degrees when it returns, because you want your radiators to radiate 20 degrees of that radiator water heat and then come back at 50 degrees or whatever. But probably the radiator water's still too hot. It's maybe at 52 degrees. I'm really talking rubbish here by the way, but I'm freestyling. And now this is getting confused because it was told to go on. I could be talking total rubbish here by the way, because usually sometimes I get a call here and the burner doesn't go on. And that's what I'm talking about. I think the return radiator water's too hot, so the boiler's not turning on because it's not that 20 degree differential. It's not such an issue with my hot water because for one I hardly use it, and for two, even down at here, the water's still hot enough for me at the moment. So this is a combination boiler by the way. Yeah, but for most houses you probably want, say, a 10 kilowatt boiler maximum. I mean, a boiler heats up hot water, and here we're doing it with gas. But 10 kilowatt maximum I would say. But really, probably most houses are like 6 kilowatts. And the small houses are probably even less, 4 kilowatts your needs for your hot water, for your radiators and for your hot water. But they make them far too powerful. And if your boiler can't pretend that it's a small boiler, then you may get that sort of on off, on off, on off, on off, because it's totally confused. The return hot water is probably to the radiator is probably too high. It's got a call to say to go on because you want it 21 degrees or whatever your house, but the radiator water's too hot still, so the burner's not turning on and it's just getting totally confused. So you don't want your boiler to go like that. You want your boiler to go like that and off for half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever. You'll notice this if your boiler keeps going on and off all the time, on, off, on, off. I'm talking about every 5 minutes or something, because you can hear the fan at the moment. That's a fan. It's a real nuisance because I thought I was doing good by turning my flow temperature down, but I might actually be using more energy because this thing's like a flamethrower that I'm using as a candle. I would check this guy out on YouTube, Urban Plumbers. He's explained it the best in my opinion. There's other good ones as well, like Skill Builder and Heat Geek. I think Heat Geek's more to do with heat source, ground source fans and air fans, that new type of heating. But Urban Plumbers is probably the best I've seen. He even uses graphs where you can still see them. Yeah, I could be misquoting him here, but he done one really good video on this, and he said 80% of houses use less than 10 kilowatts of boiler need. I think he actually gets the boiler need from checking how much heat loss there is in the house. Another good thing I found on YouTube is that there's a lot of plumbers, a lot of solar panel system fitters on YouTube now, and you can watch them actually installing they're the best to know, you know, from what's going on. But it just makes me sad about all this. I mean, the government and the manufacturers should be, I mean, this, too, the boiler, gas boiler's been too powerful is, you know, it just shouldn't happen. It should be, they should be aiming for 10 kilowatts and probably even less for gas boilers. Because instead of saving heat, we're probably using more heat. And that gets me on to another thing. I used to have all my radiators on at full, but I started turning a few of them down, but that caused even more problems. This is my main radiator, and when I turned it down it was making lots of noise. Not so much this one, more the smaller ones like in the bedroom and the bathroom. This is a big one, which is really what you want apparently. Apparently you want oversized radiators really, if you're going to turn your radiator water heat lower. I can't wait until we replace gas boilers with electric boilers. They're already the same price, electric combi boilers, but the reason that we don't use them is they're like 3.5 times dearer to run. Electricity is 3.5 times dearer. Sometimes it's 4 times dearer apparently historically. So that is really why we use gas boilers rather than electricity. For heat pumps, the problem seems to be like they use electricity and they've got to be like 3.5 times more efficient than gas boilers to become viable on price, you know, running costs, because electricity is 3.5 times dearer. For those heat pumps you need electricity, and from what I've seen, I'm sure they'll get even better, you know, they will. It's probably because they're sort of in their infancy and their manufacture in Britain. I mean, the YouTube guy Skill Builder says in Britain the main problem is heat insulation is just so bad in Britain. Heat Geek, they sort of, they're very pro heat fans, and but they say it's mostly because installers don't know enough yet, and so they're not doing it as efficiently as they should. Yeah, this is the bedroom one. It's very small, but when I turn this one off I get all sorts of weird water noises through the radiators, and my boiler keeps going on and off, on and off. And I'm not sure what it is, but I suspect what it is when I take this out of the equation, there's so little radiator water then in my system to be heated that the boiler's heating it up too quick, and it just can't match. It's getting a call to switch on, but the boiler thinks the return hot water is far too hot. So because you're meant to have that 20-degree differential between your boiler water going out, your radiator water going out from the boiler and coming back, and if your boiler's too powerful, that 20 degrees differential is just disappearing. And it's Urban Plumbers explained this in one of his videos. So I just leave this one on full again now, because I think I've just got too little radiator water in my system if I switch it off, and the boiler heats it up too quickly. Here's the bathroom one. Again, I will experiment with them again, but from what I've tried, when I switch ones off that I don't feel I need, or try and lower the temperature, I get all sorts of funny noises through the radiators, and my boiler keeps going on and off, on and off, on and off. I got a call again and the boiler's on. If you get a call and the boiler's not on, that's not a very good sign, because the boiler's confused then. But it's only that's 5 minutes ago, so I'm not very happy about it being back on, but maybe it's cold outside, it doesn't feel like it. Another thing Urban Plumber's done on his YouTube channel, it was a really good video. He explained about the condensing, because this is like a second chance to recover heat from the gas. Like in the old days, what happened was a gas boiler would say heat your hot water pipe, just literally like that. Not literally, but think of it that way. That's your radiator pipe, and that's your gas flame, and then it would travel it to your radiator and that. I mean, that is sort of thing. I mean, a boiler is a kettle really, you know. But in the old days that was it, and all the gas would just go outside. It would get, as it still does, you know, it's pumped out by a, well no, it's blown out by a fan. But then what the manufacturers thought about was, well, there's a lot of latent heat in that waste gas that's gone out through the chimney, through the flue. They call it a flue, it's a chimney really. There's a lot of waste gas, there's not a way we can save that. And they found out by condensing, they realised by condensing the water, they could save the latent heat from it. And then when your radiator pipe, return pipe came like that, your flame's over here, but what they do first is they put it through a sort of channel through that latent heat from the condensing. And so if your radiator pipe comes back at say 40 degrees, that might heat it up to 45 degrees, and then your gas flame will heat it up to whatever else you want it set to, say 60 degrees. Since 2005 all gas boilers in the UK have been condensing boilers. That means you've got two goes at getting the heat out of the gas flame, one from the gas flame itself, and second from condensing to get latent heat from the waste gas. And so since 2005 all are manufactured that way. But then you've got to know that for it to work well, it's got to be around about the dew point, and the dew point is 55 degrees. So really, and this is a really bad graph of made, you know, I'm not even sure it's correct, but say that you would be getting 100% of the energy out of the flame plus the waste gas heat, getting the heat out of it. But you've got to be under 55 degrees to be at the dew point, and then the efficiency becomes a lot more. But most of us are away up here, 80 degrees. We're probably hardly getting any condensing out of it. I mean, a boiler without that doesn't have condensing like the old types of boilers, you maybe get 70% of the heat out of them. The other 30% was waste heat. Well, for condensing, they say in 80 degrees, 90 degrees. That's in a factory test, you know, that's the same as like when you buy a car and it tells you how many miles per gallon you'll get out of it, but you don't in reality. But anyway, they're a lot more efficient condensing boilers, but if you're way up, if your radiator water temperatures are way up high, say at 80 degrees, you're probably very inefficient in recovering waste heat. So I don't know, you really want to be around the dew point, which is probably 55 degrees, and the government are actually saying that now, officially I think. But a problem is that if you're doing that, you really want your water to travel slow, your radiator water, which really means you want oversized radiators, ideally, and also possibly they'll even go up to 22mm piping. This is traditional 15mm piping we have to the radiator, but probably in new builds they might even use 22mm wide pipes now, so that they can have much slower water. Yeah, 15mm piping I've got all around here. Because if you put your flow temperature down, what I call radiator water heat, you really want it to go slower, you want the water to go slower, and you want oversized radiators. You really want a Mississippi Delta rather than a small canal, which is really what I've got just now. I've got small canals. I really want a Mississippi River. So I'm just ignorantly freestyling here. What can we do? Well, this is I've tried turning down your flow temperature, but I think really you'll need to stand in your boiler and you work out what your boiler's doing. If it's dumb, you know, then just get a call again. The burner should go on. Yeah. If the burner doesn't go on, then it probably means the return radiator water's too hot and it doesn't want to go back on. Like, it's all based on this. In the old days, they just came, you just turn it up to 80. The radiator water, it would come back at 60 because it's at 20 degrees differential. That's what they work these things on. That 20 degrees is giving you heat in your room. and so it didn't matter if it was 80 degrees. But now they say, oh, that's just wasting energy. We really, because you don't need boiling water in a room to make a room warm. You know, even at 80 degrees, it's nearly boiling, but you know, if you bring a bucket of water at 55 degrees into a room, it's going to give some heat. So it's that 20-degree differential they really want. See, with that getting off, that shouldn't happen like that, I don't think. I'm only finding this out from making a video here, you know. I'll need to take a look at that. So it's that 20-degree differential. The government and everybody are saying now you want that down to 55 degrees. But if you get too powerful a boiler, you can't modulate it, all these sort of things. You may end up in a worse position when you're going down, because it's worth trying anyway, you know. Flow temperature I'm talking about for your radiator. And for your hot water, there shouldn't be any problem if you've got a combi. Someday I'll know what I'm talking about. There's my room temperature thing, central heating. A boiler makes two noises. Well, there's two things that make noise. Three things actually. In the boiler itself, it's the pump when it's pumping the water around, your radiator water, and then the fan, which is on just now. The fan is removing the gas out of the flue. Chimney. Yeah, and the other noise you'll get is if the water moving around is making a lot of noise in your radiators. Anyway, my main point was they're too powerful, that's what I was wanting to say. If you check Screwfix gas boilers, and even if you compare them to the electric boilers are a lot less. You know, they're setting them at a more realistic thing, like 10 kilowatts, 11, you know. Most of us are probably doing it 4, 5, 6 kilowatts we need for heating and hot water. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Both the gas industry, both the boiler industry and the government need to sort it out, really, in my opinion. Or even if Screwfix starts selling ones at 10 kilowatts or whatever, you know. If you look at Screwfix, I mean, the first one's 24 kilowatts, I think. I just looked at Screwfix. I think I saw one at 18 kilowatts and another one at 20 kilowatts. So I don't know whether they're coming down a bit. You know, maybe I misread them. But I was sure when I last looked they were around 24 kilowatts upwards. But I've seen one at 18 kilowatts and that, you know. Well, maybe I'm going by this one because this one's 24 kilowatts. See, my boiler may be coming on and off because I've got the flow temperature set down a bit. Yeah, it may be the water's already heated to the thing that the boiler thinks it should be, even though it's getting a call, you know. So that's sort of what I was meaning. And now my fan's on for like 5 or 7 minutes to clean the gas waste out the chimney. Yeah, two other things that the Urban Plumbers said on his website. When I was talking about condensing, 55 degrees being ideal because of the dew point thing, what I mean is that's when the sort of gas turns more into a sort of vapour. So that's when it can actually turns more into a liquid, and it can actually do its condensing and get the latent heat out of it. And the other thing he mentioned was some people seem to feel that a smoky plume coming out of your flue, or your chimney as I call it, outside is a good sign. But he said actually it's not a good sign. It's probably a sign of you're losing a lot of latent heat. It's not doing much condensing. I'm not actually sure what it's meant to look like, you know, whether it's maybe pretty clear or what. But that was something that I wondered, you know, because with the old non-condensing boilers, it probably just came out as a sort of pretty clear and just really a lot of power in it, you know, because there was a lot of latent heat in the old non-condensing ones. So I thought maybe the smoky ones meant it was getting a lot of latent heat and the plume was coming out in a relaxed manner. But I'm not sure now. So once the electricity is cheap enough, we can all get electric combi boilers and do away with all this. Personally, I would go for solar. I think solar is going to be the answer. Solar, with a battery in your house, a big battery, and then you can even give some electricity back to the grid. I'm seeing a lot of YouTube videos on this now, you know, people showing how much it's saving and that, but at the moment it's just too dear, you know, for me anyway, but I think that's going to be the answer for most of us, unless you don't get any much sun on your house, which then I would probably consider a heat pump or whatever, but I think gas, I can't wait to get rid of gas. But at the moment it's 3.5 to 4 times dearer, so it's not, I mean, for the price the electricity is now, I could probably buy 3 gas boilers a year and still have change from my electricity bill. I'll put the link to the Urban Plumber, which I think is the best video on this. I'll put it down below. I can understand why manufacturers went down that route, you know, making them too powerful. I suppose it's like the car industry where people want cars that are far more powerful than what they need, you know, they're buying 200-mile-an-hour cars to go shopping and stuff. I don't know if it's the same sort of scenario with, because of course the gas boilers, they don't want to make a boiler that's too weak for our house. So, but everything's got sort of out of context now, but yeah, we need to sort it out. We need less powerful gas boilers. Yeah, my gas boiler just came on there again for like 30 seconds, so it's definitely confused.